Welcome to Under the Wings Helmet. I'm Kyle Simmons, and my co-host, former Michigan offensive lineman Thomas Guynes, and the host of the ASAP Elite podcast, Rob Penn. So how are we doing tonight, guys?
Pretty good.
Outstanding.
Go Blue.
Mm-hmm. Hey, we're doing a lot better than some of those Spartan dogs.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we are. Yeah, last Saturday, the number 4 ranked Michigan Wolverines defeated Sparty 29-7 at the Big House. Blake Corum had 133 yards rushing and a touchdown. He also had a receiving touchdown. And JJ McCarthy went 15-25 for 167 yards and a touchdown. So, Thomas, give us your analysis of the win.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it was a good win. I'm still having issues with our ineptitude in the red zone. Got to stop settling for field goals. This is one of those games. Yes, it was a rivalry game, but at the same time, I don't think this is what we want to use as our measuring stick. We have to watch who we compare ourselves to. And I think that's one of the main reasons why even coming in at number 4 and getting a rivalry win, yet we actually moved down this week in the rankings to number 5. So I have to guard ourselves. Yeah, we beat little brother, but at the end of the day, what did that win really do for us other than give us bragging rights and give us the ability to bring back the Paul Bunyan Trophy back home to the hallowed halls of Schembecker Hall? Overall, I thought our offensive line did a really good job. We were definitely changing the line of scrimmage. I'm going to give those guys a solid A at this particular point. As you alluded to, Blake had over another game over 100 yards. Kyle, if you get a chance, if not on this particular episode, maybe for the next episode, how many games has Blake Corum recorded 100 yards this season? He got his 1,000 yards in already, so with a lot of football left to play. So this young man's definitely going to be considered in the Heisman Trophy talks, and looking forward to us just playing some continued solid football. But again, we have to start getting the ball in the end zone and not settling for field goals. So big shout out to Jake Moody for continuing to be that guy when we need him.
What I thought about that game is 52 rush attempts. 52. Now, no pun intended. I always talk about the body shots. We're not going to talk about the end of the game. They just beat him up. Hey, yeah, definitely. Hey, Blake Corum looked extra fast this game for some reason. I'm sorry, he was hitting holes and exploding. I seen him running on a 3-yard touchdown that he had. Man, it looked like he was about to take off for 40 yards. I was impressed. They dominated. They manhandled that defensive line. Man, we were ready.
So, it was pretty much how the game kind of how I thought it was going to go. We were talking about it. It was a kind of real tight first half. You can see it was a lot of emotion. And then that second half adjustments, we keep talking about these adjustments, and they just simply pulled away from it. It was like the cream rose to the top in the second half, per se. You can see the talent difference. The talent level was separated. And unfortunately, some things happened after the game that I really don't want to get into too much, but it's kind of a shame that it's such a good rivalry that things like that have to overshadow the game. Regardless of how the game came out, just what happened after the game was totally unacceptable on any side. But I won't go too much in that unless you got something you want to say about that.
So just a couple of things real quick. Yes, we are making second half adjustments, but mark my words, slow starts are going to bite us in the butt eventually.
Eventually meaning the last game of the season, the Saturday.
The 26th of November. When I go back and I'm watching the team from down south and I'm looking at the amount of overall athleticism that they have on that team, I feel like us coming out with a slow start, we're going to have to match these guys stride for stride. If our defense is able to hold their offense to a very limited offensive production, I think we'll be fine. But again, as I said before, we have to get into the end zone. Our defense has to get stops. We're going to have to continue to put quality hits on their quarterback in order to, make him nervous and shake him up a little bit. I don't want to say that I'm looking past the other teams that we got coming up. We got a really good Illinois team coming up this month. So that right there is going to be the trap game, in my opinion. I think, obviously, I think we'll do fine against Rutgers, but that Illinois game is what I'm going to consider the trap game. I was actually on the team in 94 and 95. Illinois came in, and we lost that game. Now, one of the sickest pregame shows ever by a team. Illinois came out in all orange for their pregame. When the game started, the whole team came out in all blue. It was magnificent. But with that being said, we did take the L that week. But coming back full circle, talking about the Sparty game, let's talk about what happened in the tunnel. I think this goes to show you that not only the level of rivalry that takes place, but let's talk about the level of mastery that coaches have on their teams. It's all about setting the culture. Are you going to have a culture of winners and professionals? And I'm not going to speak bad about Sparty. I don't know what their culture is other than from what I see on the outside looking in. But nothing that Wolverine did going in the tunnel, it wasn't the smartest thing. I'll totally, sign off on that. It wasn't the smartest move I've ever seen, but nothing that he could have said and or done would have justified the actions that, he suffered at the hands of those Spartan players. So it comes a point in time that when does the game almost turn into quasi-gang violence? And these are some of the things that you have to go back and look when we start talking about what are we trying to teach these young men. I mean, they're kids, we still call them kids, but these are young men at this particular point. And one of the greatest quotes I ever had from a high school coach of mine was, it's not so much about the wins and losses. It's about when I see you 30 years from now, what kind of husbands, what kind of fathers, what kind of productive members of society did my players turn out to be? That is the telltale sign of how good a coach really is.
Let me take that up one. Did Penn State provide the blueprint? Shut down that Russian attack. Keep them within striking distance.
Right.
I think that we saw a lot from that game. I think that they were exposed. And at the end of the game, their talent took them over the edge. Sort of like Kyle mentioned, the talent disparity between us two.
Right. I mean, there was definitely a higher level of frustration, I think, in the game. What's really crazy is that when you watch Coach Tucker, he wears his emotions on his sleeve. And I've always said that, to me, that was going to be the X factor, his ability to motivate his team.
You mentioned that a couple weeks ago, last week.
Yeah. Yep. And that was a disparity that I actually felt with when, in comparison to the head coaches between Jimmy and Coach Mel. I think what Jimmy did a masterful job of hiring the right assistants. Jimmy can be the master and the puppet master, if you will, but he hired the right assistants that are able to connect with their players and bring about the right level of motivation to keep these guys going. When you look at our coaching staff, it's relatively young. You have a lot of former players. You have some NFL experience in there mixed in as well. And I think a lot of that enthusiasm that our assistant coaches is infectious. Whereas Sparty, everybody feeds off of Coach Tuck. And I don't know if Coach Tucker's animosity, frustration, everything else, because when you clearly see it on his face. And as his guys are coming up the tunnel, again, wasn't the smartest move by our player, kind of throwing himself into the hornet's nest. And I don't know what the young man said. I don't know what the young man did, but it was just enough of a catalyst to set off those chain of events that were quite frankly, embarrassing to both universities and to these young men that are representing the great game of football. So, hopefully we can put this black eye behind us, move forward, continue to move on with our season. As much as we talk about the Aggies, as I like to call them, or the Spartans, I wish those young men, good luck going through these trials, reference their separation from the team and possible criminal prosecution. So it's a sad day for all parties involved.
So this week, we're traveling to New Jersey to take on the Scarlet Knights of Rutgers. They have a 4-4 record overall this season. And we're a heavy favorite going into this game. So my question is for Thomas, which you've already kind of alluded to, that you were just saying, how do we take this game and the next two games versus Nebraska and Illinois, and we start to really prepare for that final matchup versus Ohio, because that's clearly where this is headed. So you were talking about a trap game, but I want to talk about this game in particular. What can we do with this game against Rutgers to just get ready for Ohio?
I think this game against Rutgers, based off the talent disparity alone, we need to use this game as a blueprint of us getting out fast. In that first quarter, that first drive, we need to be efficient. We need to be powerful. We need to be bullies up front, but we also need to be masterful as when we get ready to take the top off of it with our long game. So let's start putting the ball in the end zone early and often. Again, the red zone or our lack of ability to be proficient in the red zone is what's killing us right now. It hasn't came up to bite us just yet. But as you alluded to, seemingly enough, we continue to handle our business, and we got to go down to Columbus and deal with that situation down there. These are the things that we can't allow ourselves to get into because of the fact that they have such a prolific offense and they have the ability to put up basketball numbers, even in their last game where they showed a propensity for having that slow start. When they came out in the second half, whatever halftime adjustments they made, whatever Coach Day said to the team, it was completely night and day. And also, if a lot of people haven't been really paying close attention to the team from down south within, Wolverine fandom, their defense has gotten exponentially better as the season has progressed. So I definitely feel like this is going to be a tough road for us to hold once we get down there. Not something that's insurmountable, not anything that we can't do. But these three games coming up, Rutgers, Nebraska, and Illinois, we need to take that valuable time in honing our skills in scoring quickly and scoring often.
Well, the blueprint was already set 3 years ago. Rutgers currently gives up 178 rush yards per game, which was similar to that team that they had 3 years ago. It won't be 68-0, But I think you would come out, we'll follow that same blueprint that we've been playing the entire season. We'll kick them in the teeth, maybe 54-0.
54-0. That's the call. Is that your call for this one?
Oh, wow.
It. Hey, you remember a couple years ago we put up 68-0 against them. Chris Evans and them guys they were rushing out they just ran them out of New Jersey, man. So it's the same blueprint with an even better team and an even faster running back.
That's going to be really key. And again, I think this is one of those games where we don't have to necessarily show too much, and hopefully our very vanilla schemes offensively and defensively should be enough based off the level of opponent which we're playing. But again, the emphasis, the onus has to be on scoring quickly, scoring often. If we get into the red zone, only time I want to see Jake Moody on the field is for the PAT, not for the field goal.
Hey, you know what? It's like we can never show too much. It's only so many ways you can run a trap and a dive and power. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah,
right.
for sure. Just run it down their throat. Like I said, I've seen maybe one or two trick plays the entire season. And that might be
and even that with the quote unquote trick plays, I'm like they were very they were mundane at best, a little flea flicker here and there.
Yeah.
Nothing overly exotic as far as what our offense is. And I'm completely cool with that because
they
honestly, I think we get a little bit too cute down in the red zone. We'll stick with the date that you brought to the dance. We were punching you in the mouth 80 yards the other way. Now, once we get home, we want to start doing everything east and west. Let's continue to punch it north and south. Hit the crossing patterns using the tight ends in the back of the end zone and making sure that that play action that we continue to bring because of the run game is going to be able to suck those linebackers up because everybody think we're going to go power. And then we should be able to get the easy dunk and dink to the tight ends or the wide receivers sitting in the back of the end zone someplace. So, again, stick with the date that you brought to the dance. All the extra stuff, we can save it unless, quote unquote, we really need it. And hopefully that never comes to fruition.
Hey, we've been saying the same thing all season.
All day.
Mm-hmm.
Goal line.
So, yeah.
Goal line. Let's see how that comes out.
All right, so Ralph calling for a shutout here is predicting a shutout. You got a score for us, Thomas?
I'm going to say 42-6.
Yeah, I'm actually right there with you. I'm going to say 45-6. I think we'll get one field goal.
Give him mercy field goal.
Be one field goal in there. It'll be all touchdowns. But hey, 45-6 sounds good to me. So yeah, I guess that's all we got for this week, guys. Anything else you want to add? Or
No. Only thing I want to add as we continue to get ready to go out to New Jersey to play the Scarlet Knights is this. Don't overlook game by game, step by step, brick by brick. The game's going to come. We gotta let the game come to us. And what I mean by that is this. There's no need for us to press. That time when we're going to go and play the team from down south is going to come. But we got to continue to take care of business prior to heading down to Columbus. So other than that, I look forward to seeing how the Wolverines bounce back. And when I'm saying bounce back, just bounce back from all the distractions because of the win against Sparty and everything that transpired within the tunnel. Making sure that our coaches, our head coach, is keeping the guys mentally focused into the game and continuing to impress upon these young men game by game, day by day, brick by brick. Don't start thinking it's Christmas just yet. Other than that, I'm expecting nothing but amazing blue touchdowns, Blake Corum with at least 150 yards rushing. And I would really like to see that Donovan Edwards kid get some more clock as well.
All right, and that's it for this week of Under the Winged Helmet. Come back next week where we preview the game versus the Huskers. And be sure to check us out on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, and the Believe Podcast Network. For Thomas Guynes and Rob Penn, I'm Kyle Simmons. Go Blue.
Go Blue.
Go Blue.
All right.